Good morning. I am Steve Weber. I am the host of the American Gumption Morning Show, broadcasting on the Spirituality Gone Wild Network and also on the American Gumption Facebook page and YouTube channel. So thanks for joining in and watching us either live or in a replay format. Alrighty, so welcome to today's show. It's show number 115. It's Wednesday, January 27th. So I have got we're going to do a little bit of a tech thing today, and we're going to talk about selling, and we're going to talk about marketing, and I'm going to do my monologue first, and I'm going to talk a little bit about my history with technology and how I kind of evolved into, the philosophy of technology that I have today. And that's about a 10-year journey, but I'll compress it down to about a 10-minute short little story. And then I'm going to welcome our guest, Wes Schaefer. He is the sales whisperer, and he'll be joining us at about 15 past the hour. So I'm excited to talk to Wes. Wes and I met, probably about 10 years ago. We met like everybody meets these days, virtually online, and connected on LinkedIn or some other social channels, and then you just kind of get to know people. And even though this will be the first time we're actually speaking, he's somebody that I feel like I've gotten to know over the years and understand, what he's doing, and he's been helpful to me along the way. So I'm excited to have a chance to have Wes tell his story, and also maybe we'll pick his brain a little bit about some of the things that are happening in the tech world and the selling world these days. Alrighty, so that's coming up, like I said, just in a few minutes. Tomorrow, I'm going to welcome Yolande Brenner. She is an actress, a singer, a writer. She is the author of the book Holy Candy: Why I Joined a Cult and Married a Stranger, and that's her memoir. And she's 6 or 7 or 8 years past all of that. So she, but she had a kind of a crazy experience early on in her life, and came out the other side a better person, and she's going to come on and share her story. So that'll be tomorrow. And then Friday, I'm planning to do a live show. We will see. That's the plan. I don't have a guest yet. Maybe I'll do the monologue. Maybe I won't even do a show, although I'm pretty sure I will. So that's what's coming up. And then I already have 3 guests scheduled next week. I'll share those, what's happening next week, the next couple of days. Alrighty, so let's go ahead and jump right into today's monologue. And my monologues not always, but mostly 9 out of 10 times have something to do with whoever my guest is coming on board. So anyway, I thought what I wanted to do is share a little bit of the story of my first website, my first WordPress website, and then the second website, and then the third and fourth websites, and how I could learn technology and kind of the story. So that's really where I'm going to go, and then how it ultimately took me into more marketing automation and CRMs and using technology, to work and run my business. So 2008. So we'll back up and just say that, 1996, I started working for Bubba Gump, doing my Forrest Gump thing. That ended up lasting 15 years, but the last couple of years of that, I had already been beginning to transition to speaking Gump, to my speaking business. And, I thought I need a website. So I ended up in 2008 meeting a young lady who helped me build a simple WordPress website. And we got the thing up and running, and it had the basic story right there, but it didn't look real fancy. And I ended up the next year hiring a web development firm to go ahead and create a better website. And they just basically took the content that I had already put up there, but they really polished it up and made it look pretty spiffy. And I knew I was going to do a blog and writing. That was part of my objective. So they set that up that was going to be on WordPress. And my first site was entirely WordPress, but they somehow convinced me that it was a better idea to do a static website, which at the time meant coding, and it still means coding. And so anyway, the website was built like this pretty fancy looking, pretty clever, pretty nice website, but it took a long time for us to develop it and get it up and running. And it cost me a small fortune, and it looked great, but it almost immediately was out of date because I didn't have a whole lot of clarity about what Speaking Gump was supposed to be. And all that we did was we took the basic message I had in 2008 and put a lot of polish on it, and it looked great. But I was then kind of locked into it because I didn't have the skills to do coding and to change things. And so I felt like I was trapped, because every time I wanted to make a change, like a title or just something simple, I couldn't do it. I could put my blog. I learned how to use the WordPress portion for the website in the blog and that whole thing, and that was all good. So anyway, the bottom line was that this site looked great, but it wasn't able to control it and do anything. And so I felt, like I said, I was locked in. So I didn't like that. And I decided that I would take my website back, and I went and I just started learning. I took some classes at night, learning how to use WordPress. And so I spent about 6 or 8 months taking a variety of different, 8-week courses or 3-week courses or, different things. It was like kind of an after hours, learning center that I took all these courses. And so anyway, that was great. I learned the basics of it. And I almost it was like kind of a weird thing. This company had and I did so many things that I would never do again. But they were hosting it, and they were, it was like they owned my website and I couldn't get it back. And it was almost like the middle of the night. I had to sneak in and grab my website, get it back, and put it on my own servers, or not my own servers, but servers that I had control over. And anyway, so that all happened, and that got accomplished several years later. Well, what that experience told me was that I needed to learn technology. I needed to know the basics, and I didn't have to be an expert at it, but I had to understand it a heck of a lot better than I had been understanding it up until that point. So that's kind of what happened. Now, a lot of good came out of that. And so I just have a couple of ideas I want to share with you. First and foremost is I learned to write. I ended up publishing several hundred blog posts during that several year period. And so I learned how to write and express myself in a way that I hadn't done prior to that. And I learned that I needed a greater level of skills, technology skills. And so that happened at the same time. I also learned that tech had a lot of options, a lot of different ways to do it. There was no one right way and wrong way. There was just all kinds of choices and all kinds of options. And, you wanted to, because you're kind of a kind of a novice or a beginner at it, you go, well, how do you do this? You think okay, there's a right way and a wrong way. One way, there is no one way. There's a million different ways. And everybody you talk to has their own opinion about, how that should be done. And anybody who is an expert is really only an expert in their particular thing that they're an expert in. And then as soon as you ask them a question that's a little bit outside of their expertise, they're kind of guessing, or they're kind of offering an opinion, or they're kind of telling you, but they, it's out of their expertise. And so you need a lot of experts. That if you're going to rely on experts, you need a lot of people that have expertise, because tech is so broad, so wide, that there's no one person that can, possibly know all this stuff. And I learned to differentiate between when someone was in their expertise and when they were not. So I learned enough about technology to kind of be able to read between the lines and know if they knew what they were talking about or didn't know what they were talking about. So that was all good stuff. And that's kind of what came out of that. Now, kind of shifting gears a little bit, moving on with the tech story. After I learned the basics of WordPress, I went on to, learning about CRMs and tech automation, marketing automation, and autoresponders. And I dove into that for a couple of years, where I truly wanted to understand that and learn it. And there was one slight little problem during that time frame, is I still didn't have a lot of clarity about what I was supposed to be in my life. I was, doing Speaking Gump, and I was post Forrest Gump with working for Bubba Gump at that point, and I was developing this motivational message, and that was all good stuff and foundational for where I am today. But it never quite felt like the right thing, and maybe I didn't want to admit that at the time. But the problem was I ended up kind of falling in love with the technology and using that more than I was using the the serving my client. And the problem was is I didn't know who I hadn't really been able to define who my ideal client was and what the exact product or really in my case more of a service that I wanted to offer to people, and then how I would deliver an exceptional experience for that. So your ideal client, the service that you provide, and then the experience of providing that. And all of those things a lot of automation can be added to those things if you're crystal clear about them. And I wasn't. And so I was learning the technology. And again, that wasn't a bad thing to learn all this technology, but there was that kind of a moment where you were kind of more married to the technology than you were to actually, solving the problem. And so, again, the good experience of all of that was that I didn't know, and I was figuring that out. But I was like, at least being productive and learning some of the technology, even though I kind of sidetracked myself for a while with believing that the technology was the answer, and clearly that's not the case. So about 4 years ago, that phase of my life was kind of coming to an end, and I was getting more clarity about what I was going to do. I still hadn't figured out American Gumption and this whole journey that I'm on now, but I began to realize that something was changing and going on. So again, keeping with the technology frame, the first thing I did at that point was I said, I've got to change my email host. So I had this kind of an odd third party email host, and it worked very well. And there was a calendar, and the calendar worked very well and integrated with my email system that way. But and again, this is the hosting my Speaking Gump, Steve at speakinggump.com, or it was the email host, not my email autoresponder. And so anyway, I switched to Google at that point. Got a G Suite account, hosted my main emails with them, and then started using Google Calendar. And so that was actually a pretty major ordeal to switch that over and get my, history of different emails and, transfer that. And anyway, that all got taken care of. But the reason why is that this calendar that I had been using didn't integrate with everybody else's. And so when you go to set up an appointment, there was like a level of complexity to get, just to talk to other people. And so, you set up a Google Calendar, appointment, and you can just automatically add a guest to it and send them off, and they get the invite, and then they can say yes or no to it. So, anyway, just that basic level of stuff wasn't there. So I fixed that problem. And then 2 years ago, I was really at that point where I was like, okay, I'm getting ready to leave Montana. And so, and I was shifting the brand from Speaking Gump to American Gumption. And I was like, I finally went, you know what, the CRM that I've been trying to make work, that super complicated, super powerful, and I actually learned how to more or less use it. I understood it. I just was like, this is way too complicated. I don't need all this complexity. I just need like a simple, automated way to send out messages and, sign people up. But I don't, want to do this whole complicated thing. So I finally got rid of that one and switched over and completed that. Hesitated for almost a year and pulling the trigger on that. But then at the beginning, 1 year ago is when I actually made the switch over and changed that way. So, and what I did was I went with more of a hybrid system. The all-in-one package just didn't feel like the right solution for me, because I had like a piece of my business kind of went in this area, and then a piece went there, and I couldn't find an all-in-one package that seemed to fit all of them. So I found some simple little piece systems that, to use, and then, what was it? Zapier now can connect everything. And so it's like, you know what, we'll try it that way for a while. So that's what I've been doing, and that's where I'm at. So that's the tech story. That was my WordPress / technology history for the last 10 years, compressed down into 10 minutes. All righty. Now let's go ahead and welcome our guest. I see Wes is backstage in the American Gumption green room. Hopefully he's been enjoying the box of chocolates that I left back there for him. Wes Schaefer, are you there?
I got my mouth full, man. You got to give me a warning. A little heads up.
Well, good. Well, welcome to the American Gumption show. We're going to dive into some of the, the sales whisperer stuff and some of the technology things you've been doing. But before we do that, I'd like to go ahead and just read a short introduction so people who know who you are. And then I have a theme song that I play. It's called the First Time Guest on the American Gumption Show theme song. So can you bear with me while we do those two things?
Oh, man. I hope I don't have technical difficulty if I don't like that song. I'm just warning you.
All righty. So Wes Schaefer began his career in sales. Let's see. Let me change one message. Let's bring you up so people can see both of us a little better. All right. So Wes Schaefer began his career in sales full-time in 1997. He sold stocks, bonds, annuities, mutual funds, commodities, and more. He sold them across the kitchen table, over the phone, at conference tables, and everywhere and anywhere in between. In September 2006, Wes was watching the TV show The Dog Whisperer. The show's star, Cesar Millan, said he rehabilitates dogs and trains their owners. Wes had an aha moment and thought, that's what I do. I rehabilitate salespeople and train their sales managers. And he went and found that the Sales Whisperer domain was available. So he just bought it, and the rest is history, as they say. So as the Sales Whisperer, Wes trains sales professionals, sales managers, business owners, and their entrepreneurs. He has spoken and trained on sales, marketing, SEO, copywriting, goal setting, financial planning, fundraising, and even marriage preparation at his church. By the way, Wes is married, and he and his wife have 7 children. So what do you do in your spare time, Wes?
I'll let you know when I get some.
Okay, good. Wes is an Air Force vet. He flipped houses, built spec homes, and done traditional real estate. He closed 7-figure deals with Google and a $500,000 training deal with Dell Computer. Over the years, Wes has helped 2,355 entrepreneurs. 2,355 in 29 countries he's helped them sell more, sell faster, sell at higher margin, sell with less stress, and have more fun while doing it all. Wes Schaefer, welcome to the American Gumption Morning Show. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
So I'll play that song, and then we're going to dive in. The rest of the time will be ours. Here we go. Have you ever had a marching band welcome you onto a show before, Wes?
I can't say I have. Well, at least not today. So this was the first time today.
Hey, great. We're going to jump into the Sales Whisperer and talk about tech, and that'll be what we'll focus on. But you went to the Air Force Academy, and you served for, I don't know what, 6-7 years, something like that. And then, and the reason why I wanted to just start out with that is that was really where you set the foundation for training and for, creating training systems for people. Tell us just a little bit about, the service to the country in the Air Force.
Yeah, I mean, it's 4 hard years up in Colorado Springs, and then 5 years active duty, and stationed around the world, Middle East, Korea, a few assignments in the U.S. And I actually, my last job, I was in training. I spent the last 2 years down at Biloxi, and I didn't intend to create a training company, right? Because this was This was 1995. I got out, became a stockbroker. Really had no long-term goals around creating the Sales Whisperer back then. And but I did discover I was good at training. I was good at making the complex understandable. Right? It's tough to train. It's tough to teach. Right? To understand where someone is and go out and meet them there and then bring them along, right? Far too many people want to stand on the soapbox and say, come to me, come to the wise man on the mountain. It's like, no, go down and get them, and show them the path. And so, I don't know, maybe it was an easy decision, 9 years later when I got out of the Air Force in 2006, I started the Sales Whisperer. So maybe it was a little easier for me because of the training and teaching component of it. But it's that's how I got my start.
It wasn't so as far as your sales background, you jumped right into that after the Air Force. I mean, did you come from a family of sellers, or how did you?
Nope.
How did you decide that, okay, I'm going to just start selling stocks, join a brokerage firm? I mean, how did that happen?
Growing up without money makes you either scared of money or motivated by it. Just like when you see people, the old adage, these two twins were raised, by a father who was an alcoholic. 20 years later, one is an alcoholic and one isn't. And you ask them both, and they say the same thing. Well, my dad was an alcoholic, so I had no choice, right? Mm-hmm. But they were both different, right? So you do have a choice. So I actually began researching investing. I was a senior at the academy. I asked my stepbrother. He was about 5 years older than me, and he was into investing. And I was asking him how to get started. And I'm 20, 21 years old. And he told me exactly what a 21-year-old does not want to hear. He said, essentially, subscribe to Money Magazine back then. He said, read every issue cover to cover for a year. Then you'll know what to do. I'm like, just give me the easy button. But I did. So I started reading. And then my first assignment was with a friend of mine from the academy, who was actually quite savvy at investing. He had done it with his family and was taught it. So this was, 1992. We were at Texas A&M, and we had to go to the library and check out books. And they were these big, massive historical books on investing. And we were analyzing these books and then buying stocks. And I found it just very interesting. And being a single 22-year-old second lieutenant, I had a roommate, another academy grad. So we had more money than we could spend, So I picked up the yellow pages. I found a brokerage firm. The closest one to me was a mile or so away. And the guy, he was a good dude that answered the phone. We're friends to this day. And this was 1990. It's the summer of 92. And he was a good guy. I went over to see him. I set up a mutual fund, started, your dollar cost averaging. And that's how I got started.
When we, so I shared a little bit of my tech journey, and I was, I was not of the age that technology was what I grew up with. And so right. I had to kind of force myself onto it. I instinctively knew that I wanted to do it. And I had a computer back in the, late, or the late 80s. By the late 80s, I had a computer. Right. And so I was into it, and I was thinking, oh, this is neat. Nothing really worked very well then, but things kept evolving, and I kept paying attention to it. And I just instinctively knew that, I needed to learn this stuff. So when we first met, it was because of your involvement with technology companies and specifically CRMs. And that's how I got to know you. But really you're a sales guy first and foremost. It just turned out that you happen to be, working more in that technology space at that point. And yet I thought of you, as initially for the first few years, I thought of you as a tech guy instead of like the sales guy that you really are. So how did you were certainly also an early adapter into the technology and to marketing automation. How did you stumble into that? Or did you, from your brokerage days, were you, sort of exposed to it? I mean, how did it happen for you?
No, I hated technology. I was kind of like you, right? I started the Sales Whisperer. I had a techie friend who built a website for me, a little 5-page Adobe Dreamweaver HTML hard-coded site. I couldn't edit, change. I stumbled across Infusionsoft because I was a follower of Dan Kennedy, right? With his marketing message, direct mail marketing. And Infusionsoft was smart. They brought him on as an early investor and a promoter. And he was doing this 4-city tour with them and came out to Anaheim, which is about an hour from me. And so I just wanted to go meet Dan Kennedy. And it was a free event, this little workshop they were putting on. And as I met him, so in the process of waiting to meet him, right, the Infusionsoft is doing their pitch. And I was like, holy smokes, this was some good stuff. I had a local company here, some friends of mine that had kind of a precursor to Infusionsoft. It was a little bit of a CRM. It did some automation. They had given me a free account to help promote it. And I was using it and it was pretty good, but limited. So I had kind of become aware, and I had used CRMs in my tech jobs. So I was familiar with CRMs. I was familiar with templates, but there was no automation, right? And I embraced the technology because you had to, corporate was saying you will fill in your Salesforce.com. And, so to keep them off my back, I used the tool. And so I was competent with it. I wasn't afraid of it. But in hearing Dan Kennedy talk about it, and the owner, the CEO of Infusionsoft, I was like, man, I saw the power of it. And back then they had a partner program that was very good. And I was in, I think, the second class that they were rolling out. So it was very good because back then, if you passed the 5-day test, you had to go to a 5-day training, pass the certification. And if you did, you got a free account. And I was like, I did that math. I said, all right, I'm going to do that. But I knew nothing about it. I didn't have a website. I didn't understand HTML. I had to set up a free Weebly account on the side. And the other students who were all very technical, they were helping me at night, build a little landing page, build a little website so I could grab the form, the code, and embed it so I could even pass the certification. So I learned this from the ground up.
And that was, just, like 2006, 2007 timeframe?
2008.
2008. Yeah. So really, it was only just a couple years before I ended up getting introduced to Infusionsoft. And I ended up having the account for many years and never really used the power of it because I was never quite sure where I was going with my, my business. And it really was, it was like one of those catch-22s, like where it's like, I needed this in order to do this. And, and it really ultimately, you can look back at it and you can go, well, that wasn't the smartest thing that I could have done. But, like I'm an optimist. And so I'm like, what's the good of it? Hey, I learned how to use this tool and figured out I don't need to use that complicated of a tool. And the one thing I'll just say, and maybe you had the same experience, and now my business, I mean, in this interviewing and, rolling out across the country to meet people and interview them, a lot of what I do is like communicating directly with people. And so, I need technology to be kind of free form. And it's not like I'm selling 1,000 widgets and I need to get, people to sign up to do it and to buy the thing. I'm having a conversation with people, and I was never able to make the, that particular technology that we were just mentioning, very friendly for just creating a profile on a person and writing down some notes and the basic stuff,
Right.
connecting to their different profiles and that sort of thing. So anyway, I just share that because until you really know what you are doing, it's hard to pick technology, to solve the
Yeah.
problem.
Well,
I mean,
I've got a free tool on my site, and I call it Process Before Login. And it's the old begin with the end in mind. But most people pick technology just like they're going to the grocery store hungry. You get the wrong things when you do that.
yeah,
You don't have a list and you're hungry, so you overbuy. And far too many people, man, they'll call me up and they're like, I was at this Tony Robbins conference and I noticed that he uses this certain software. I want to get what he has. I'm like, you're not Tony Robbins. You haven't sold one thing yet and you want this complex system. Like, no, you don't need it.
right,
And it's a bit of a catch-22 because on the one hand, it's like, well, I want to have something I can grow into, so I don't want to outgrow something, then have to switch everything and recreate it. I'm like, that's a fair point, but are there some simpler tools, more affordable tools that have 80 or 90% of what you need, even when you get big, that can meet those needs and help you grow, because you can be house poor, right? You see it a lot of times, especially now, this crazy real estate market, people jump in, I just got to get something, and now they have this expensive home and no furniture because they're broke.
right,
And I've seen people overpay for technology, bite off more than they can chew. And then if they have a contract, which a lot of them do now, now they're sitting there and they're stuck with this tool for 12 months before they can get out of it and make a switch. And now it's like this albatross just grinding them down. So, analyze what it is you really need. Most consultants will do some type of free call to go through the different options, but understand you get what you pay for, right? I charge a few $100s for a deep dive into this to help people pick what they need. Because the problem with a free consultant, take a short call or something, they don't do that for free. They make money selling software. They make money consulting, so pay somebody for true consulting to help you pick the right tool. And you may not even have to use them for that tool. Most of the time when I do those types of early assessments, we end up not working together because they either need something too small that I don't work on, or they need something too big that I don't work on.
right.
But to help you sort through all of that and find the signal in the noise. Process before login, write down everything you want to have happen, then go find the tool that checks off the most boxes.
Yeah. I'm going to, let me do a screen share, and this is from your website. So you'll recognize this. There it is. The Venn chart of the sales, the technology, and the marketing as they all, come together and, share, they all overlap. And of course, right in the middle is where you put yourself, the sales whisperer. But, you've really positioned yourself not only as a sales guy, but somebody who knows technology, but also knows the marketing segment of it. And that's really, what you're helping people solve. But, starting with sales, that's the goal. It's not like the goal isn't to have technology, and the goal is to
Right.
use technology, and the goal is to be smart about the way your marketing language, to help and educate it. So, just go ahead and, share your philosophy of how the three of them, blend together.
Well, everybody needs to recognize that everything is sales. Okay. From the beginning. Adam and Eve, right? Eating the apple. It was a sales job, right? The serpent sold Eve to eat it. She sold Adam to eat it. They tried to sell God. Hey, it wasn't our fault, So it's all sales. And life is one big stage. and people, oh no, it's not. Like, okay. And I'll take them through this little scenario, right? So I run across you and go, "Hi, Steve, how are you?" And what do you say?
Doing great. How's it going today, Wes?
It's very good. Thank you for asking. How's the weather where you are?
Weather's great. What's the point here? What are you calling me for, Wes?
Exactly. Right. But you immediately roll right in there. There's a short little script. We're playing the role. So, and people are like, it is a script. Oh, thank you for calling. It's expecting your call. You show up at the restaurant, a table for two. Did you make reservations? It's all a sale. It's all a sale. Hey kids, go brush your teeth, go take a bath, get your pajamas on. Oh, can I just watch a little more TV? Okay, 15 more minutes. And then you go do it. It's all a sale.
Mm-hmm.
Everything is, hey boss, can I get a raise? I don't know. What have you done to earn a raise? Okay. So understanding everything's a sale, even marketing, right? What is my message? I got to sell you to stop scrolling through Facebook. I've got to sell you on pause the TV, pull up your phone and go to the website, then read it, then opt in, text 1234 to, those are all sales. And so get your messaging right, understand the offer that you make. And then technology, I equate, it's like salt when you're cooking. Only put in just enough, right? If you put too much salt in your meal, you're going to ruin the meal.
Mm-hmm.
And you can't take it out. Okay. Now, if you're lucky, right, maybe you got a little bit of rice, get too much salt. Okay. Well, now you put more rice. Okay. Maybe you can mix it up. But now you got this big plate of rice. And can you share it with somebody? Okay. Well, I got 7 kids. I can always share it. But, you may not have 7 kids. So now you got this big plate of rice. So the same thing with technology. People jump in, they get everything. SMS, CRM, marketing automation, quoting tool, e-signature, fax broadcast. And now they're not using any of it because they're just overwhelmed.
Right.
Okay. So figure out your message, figure out why people should even talk to you, figure out the best way to reach them. Again, go where they are, where your ideal prospects hanging out. If you're selling to young kids, maybe you advertise on Snapchat. If you're selling to older adults, maybe you advertise, promote it on Facebook. If they're really older, maybe it's direct mail. Maybe even still use the yellow pages, right, for an older audience. So, and then you figure that out. Then you sprinkle in the technology that helps you reach those people more efficiently. So that's, like I said, I sit right in the middle of all that because none of that is in isolation. Everything links together in this space. So and again, I try to meet people where they are. Sometimes their sales are pretty good, but they're working too hard, right? They don't have a good marketing message. They don't have a compelling copy. They just have a fire in their belly and they're getting after it, right? Other times, maybe they just have antiquated technology. I can't tell you how many businesses I show up at, and it's whiteboards, it's sticky notes, it's a Google sheet. They're just color coding things, red, yellow, green, and dragging down rows and trying to remind themselves to follow up at the right time. Like, you can't scale that way, right? So I try to meet them where they are, and sprinkle in just enough that it helps them grow, and then we grow together.
You had mentioned, Wes, that you do a consulting with someone, and you might figure out that they're too small. The particular system they need is just a basic one that you don't work with, or they're too big. Where is it? Where is that sweet spot that you're working with people? What type of a client is the ideal one that you can really get in and help them and solve their problem?
Anywhere from the solopreneur up to, a company with 20, 25 salespeople. So, beyond that, you really start to, you almost approach the enterprise, or certainly the larger of the SMBs, who start to need truly more advanced technology. And I can help them with their messaging, right? I can help them with their sales, but I won't help them with their technology.
Hmm.
Although a lot of times they'll still have too much. Even a big company, they overbuy and they underuse. So, but yeah, I can help anyone that small business up to, and I say 25 salespeople, that could be a 500 person company, that has 20, 25 salespeople. Because after that, they start to get too big. And yes, I mean, Dell was a client when they rolled out Salesforce.com. The problem with that is, for me, I don't feel like I'm really making an impact, right? At that
Hmm.
point, I'm just doing a 1 or 2 day training. People are just churning through the system, and I'm not really moving the needle. So I like working where the owner's involved, and he's helping to drive change and is cracking the whip, literally, saying, y'all pay attention. This is important. We're going to do it this way. So that's who I like to work with.
Yeah, no, that's a great point about working where you have direct access to the owner, or to the ultimate decision maker. Because
Right.
I've as a uh, as a speaker, I kind of discovered early on that if I am working for a big corporation, I'm just coming in and,
Right.
yapping away at them. But if I'm working for a company that, I can actually know what the goals and objectives are of the company, then I felt like I was involved in making a difference. So organizations that are going to use Salesforce, well, let me just ask this one question first. Like, some of the bigger systems that you work with, do you see like when does a big company really need to use like something smaller, and when does like a smaller company need to use something bigger? Where's that tipping point go for companies?
It's the same thing, that process before login,
Hmm.
break it down and say, what's the problem here? Right? Are you people spending too much time doing data entry? Do you have duplicate information? Are you struggling with reporting? Do you have silos, right? There's a sales team using one system, marketing's using another, operations is using a third, accounting's using a fourth, because at some point you need that integration. Real ideally, you have the integration from the beginning. But sometimes it's hard. Sometimes you're using a simple tool for the sales team, accounting's using theirs. And that's why, like I said, larger companies, you start dealing with CRMs and ERPs, right? These enterprise resource planning, and because it's a big deal. If you're a manufacturer, take Dell for example. They need accurate forecasting because they have to procure material, to build
Hmm.
these computers. So they need a tighter integration than you and me. That we're speaking. We've got some digital products, maybe some books. We're not going to lose $500 million, next quarter, if we don't have accurate forecasting in our CRM. So you've got to look at all of that. Smaller businesses and entrepreneurs, coaches, realistically, they can get away with very simple systems.
Yeah.
I think they buy into the hype of fancy stages and membership sites and e-learning and upsells and downsells and cross sells and affiliates and referrals. And you don't need all of that to grow a business. And I think people do that. It's a little bit of a subconscious thing. I've always said, I think people are more afraid of success than failure.
Mm.
And they have an excuse why their business failed if they can bring in 87 different things and say, oh yeah, I just got away from me. I didn't have time to focus. I lost sight of the big picture.
Yeah.
But don't lose sight of the big picture. Do what you do best, right? And then add technology or staff, as needed to help you bring the bigger picture into tighter focus.
if you this is speaking to the audience, if you are a business that needs some help with your technology, especially in the sales and marketing area, then go to Wes's website, thesaleswhisperer.com, and he's got a lot of tools and resources there. You represent a variety of different technology tools, so it's like you're familiar with a wide variety. And so I'm sure you could help people pick out like option A, B, or C. At least send people in the right way. You also have a podcast that you have been doing for several years, I'm assuming, because you're up to like 500 episodes or something. It's the Sales Podcast, but it talks mostly about selling and technology. So you can find all of those back episodes and editions there. You have something called the CRM test, or what do you call it? What's it called? The CRM.
Oh, the quiz.
The quiz.
Yeah. CRMquiz.com.
So it's just a short little 5 or 8. Not even that. You answer X number of questions, and it basically gives you some options right there, so you can kind of see what different things that somebody might start to consider. So anyway, I want people to go and check out who you are, and if it's the type of thing that you need some help with, certainly check out what Wes is doing. Now, Wes, one of the things that I liked about you right from the get-go is that I never felt like you were trying to sell me anything. You just, we connected, and you just said, "Hey, let's connect." And one of my little pet peeves, but I'm actually getting over it because I don't want to be annoyed with it any longer, is what I'll call kind of weird social media interactions. And people, and here's kind of where, like, people reach out to me, they want to connect, but they don't explain who they are. And I do a little bit of research and I figure out who they are. And I somewhere along the line decided that I didn't want to be connected to just a whole bunch of people that I had no idea who they were. And so I made an attempt to just try to know who people are a little bit, send a little bit of a message. And a lot of times they'll reach out to me, I'll send a message, and I'll never even hear anything back from them. And it just strikes me as like if you went to a party and you walked up to somebody and you said hello to them, they wouldn't just like be there silent and not talk to you. So it's just kind of a weird thing. Social media is, it's, and then you get the people who just like reach out to you and are instantly trying to sell you before they've even bothered to say hello. So, from your experience, I mean, how have you seen the world change as a result of this oddity that social media has brought on to us?
It just enhances who we are. Like they say, when people make money, they don't change. It just reveals who they are. Social media is kind of the same thing, because we've all had friends that, they jump into like a network marketing business, and you invite them over for your 4th of July, picnic, and they're selling, right? They're passing out business cards. Maybe they even bring demos, samples. Like, dude, just grab a beer and a hot dog and, slow down there, Tiger. So social media and technology, it helps bad people go out of business quicker. So it's okay, because they just can spread the word faster that they don't really know what they're doing, that they're in it just for themselves. And it is unfortunate. I mean, every day I'm pitched via email for people to come on the podcast. I'm pitched on social media, LinkedIn, especially, people hitting me up. I ignore most of them. 1 out of 100, I will just remove the connection. 1 out of 200, I will screenshot and then reply and then make them a case study on what not to do. So be careful. And I think it's just people's insecurities. It's people, a lot of people are socially awkward. Even at a party, right? You've seen it where somebody's come up or you were introduced, but somebody, they're working the room, right? And they talk to you for 30 seconds and they're like, oh, this guy, he's not who I'm looking for. And they'll look over your shoulder. Hey, excuse me, very nice meeting you. I'll catch up with you in a little bit. And they're gone. So that's the in-person version of what you experience online, right? You send a message, they look at your profile and they're like, well, this guy, he's not a venture capitalist. I don't see a Rolls Royce on his, wall or cover art. So I'm not talking to this guy. They're just chasing the buck. They're chasing fame and fortune, whatever. So I don't sweat it.
Yeah. Yeah. I kind of found myself being annoyed at it for a while, and I decided that wasn't healthy. And so
Right.
I moved past it, but it is kind of a interesting phenomena. And I appreciate what you just said. It's really, just enhanced, like, and people just are socially awkward. They, most people maybe don't know how to, interact, and so they're nervous about it, and social media just makes it harder. So thanks for I'll be more forgiving and kinder in my view of that, but I'm still going to reach out to people just because
Sure.
that's the way I do. I just want to know who people are. I don't feel like being connected to a whole bunch of people that I have no idea who they are. It just seems
Right.
silly. It just doesn't seem like it's a good use of our energy. Let's kind of bring it up to today. Last year was a very disruptive year for all of us. But I've read your Sales Whisperer blog for the last I don't know, 7 or 8 years, and I remember you posted a couple things like where you said, "Gee, I've been online virtual selling for 10 plus years." And so, like, welcome to the party is kind of what you said. I mean, it's maybe say it in those exact words, but it was like, so you've seen this big rush of people into the space that you've been working in for many years. And what's going to happen going forward in your in your opinion, because there's going to be a new normal. It's not going to go back to the way it was. It's going to be some kind of a combination of some of the things from the past will come back, but some of these things are actually much better. And this idea of being able to just meet virtually with people is a lot more efficient than, getting on a plane and traveling halfway across the country.
Yeah. Yeah. There's pros and cons to everything, right? Owning my own business since 2006, I got to watch my nickels, right? I don't have a corporate account. It's funny. I was online yesterday booking a car from Hertz, and because I've got meetings next week in Phoenix, and I just go for the cheapest one, and within reason. I don't want a little tiny car. I'm a big guy, but then I realized, oh, it's part of the contract. They're reimbursing my travel, so I got a nicer car. I didn't get the $100 car, but I got the $40 car instead of the $36 car.
Right.
But when it's your own money, you get the $36 car.
Right.
And so, but being on my own, I've been very aware of that, of expenses, and as the internet was really coming of age, it was like 2.0 was coming out, right? 2008, 9, 10, and really 2008, of course, we had the whole financial collapse. So you couldn't just run around. You had to be very selective with the prospects you were talking to. So I just did it remotely, right? So it was before Zoom, and I was using whatever was out there, Aweber, or not Aweber. It wasn't. No, I'm drawing on my Aweber's email list. WebEx.
Oh yeah, WebEx.
Skype. I mean, all these different video platforms. Most of them had a free version, just like Zoom, right? You can have a free 45-minute meeting on Zoom. And so I was leveraging the free or low cost tools, but because it was technology, I mean, people, they were comfortable meeting remotely. And as a result, I mean, over all these years, I've met like 5% of my clients maybe ever in person, and so you can do a lot like this. Now, that being said, we're still social creatures. going back to cavemen, right? Meeting and drawing on walls, right? They're drawing on their cave walls to share stories, to convey lessons. We would meet at City Hall, we meet at the general store, meet at the saloon, and just to commiserate and visit. So that we as humans haven't changed in that regard. So, but in business, it's going to be more remote stuff. Things are going to start opening up. People are going to slowly get back to a little more normal. But yeah, the new normal is going to be more work from home, more remote interaction, digital interaction. So you better get good at this.
Yeah.
Because it's here to stay.
Yeah, I think that's really important, is that if you're not willing to do this, you're going to be left behind, and you don't really have any choice. And actually, it works pretty good. It's not perfect by any means, but the fact that this year came about and it normalized this type of thing, because people on TV were suddenly like broadcast television. The news was now like showing people from their house doing it. The connection's not working perfect. And in just a year or two ago, you would, like, from a business point of view, you might look at that technology not being like a little bit staticky or the voice dropping out. You go, oh, this is unacceptable. Well, now you're seeing it on TV happen all the time, where people are garbled and stuff. And so that whole, like, I don't want to say we lowered our standards, but we kind of normalized the fact that, it doesn't have to be perfect, doesn't have to be broadcast quality to have a conversation with somebody. So, I think this is great. And I just appreciated over the years learning from you and, reading your blog. I haven't listened to your podcast. When did you start that? 500 episodes ago, you obviously been a while, but, how did that come about? What have you been doing with that? What do you look at that, the main purpose of that and value?
Yeah, I started my first podcast in 2009 with a buddy of mine, and we didn't keep it up. In 2013, I started the sales podcast.
Mm-hmm.
Again, I like teaching and training. I'm good with speaking and interviewing, and I knew it was an up and coming medium. So yeah, I've stuck with it. Something like 85 episodes published. Plus I have the CRM Sushi podcast, about 40 episodes there. And when you think about it, it's like the audio, especially YouTube was pivotal, but audio, podcast, the spoken word, it frees people up. We can drive, we can jog, we can ride our mountain bike while listening, right? Mm-hmm. It's hard to watch a YouTube video, while you're on a mountain bike. And so people can consume more in-depth data, longer form content, and more often. And easier. A lot of people are not great readers. Most of the copywriting advice, they say you need to write at like the 3rd, 5th, 6th grade level, something in there. I forget which one, but you need to dumb it down, because people, you don't want them to struggle over the words. And so people are not great readers, but we can listen, right? And if we're into something, so I have more listeners of my podcast than visitors to my website.
Mm-hmm.
So, and where else can you speak uninterrupted for 15 minutes, 30 minutes, 2 hours?
Yeah.
To a prospect, right? Or your customers. So it's something that, it's here to stay. And I think people still don't quite understand how revolutionary it is. Because it's for almost free, right? You record something, push it up. There's many places will host for free, but you can get a $5 to $10 a month hosting account at most hosting companies, and you got a podcast.
Yeah.
But now it goes back to the messaging. Do you have something to say? Do you have something people will listen to over and over again, and will they share it? So there's the magic.
It's all about the content. So it's not about the tool. It's all about what you're saying, and it's not about being a salesperson who's going to be always closing. It's about that combination of message and more technology, in the sense that you're delivering it to the way people want to do it, and then you're really letting them make the choice. What you're doing is you're putting the the water bucket in front of the horse, and you let the horse decide whether it wants to drink or not. You're not forcing anything on people these days. That doesn't work any longer. And I just always appreciated your sales whisperer approach, being one of solving someone's problem, helping them, as opposed to being in it for I'm making a sale, and aren't I great? And unfortunately, that's what has given sales a bad name over the years. And so you're attempting to give sales a good. You don't promote it this way, but that's what I see you doing. Is you're giving sales a good name. So I think it's great. So keep up the great service. And thank you, Wes, for coming and joining me this morning. I really appreciate your getting up early on the West Coast, although you're probably up at this time most days anyway. So.
Yeah. If I'm asleep at 7, something's wrong. I'm sick or hungover.
Well, very good. I was speaking with my 92-year-old father this morning, telling about who I'm going to interview today, and I remember your blog post that talked about the cross-country trip that you took with the family when you guys got sick earlier in the year, but everybody survived and is doing well now. So it's one adventure after another at the Schaefer family household.
Never a dull moment.
All right. Well, hey, thanks an awful lot for joining us, Wes, and welcome back anytime. Thank you so much.
All right. Thank you.
Well, there's Wes Schaefer. I want to thank him. Wes Schaefer, the Sales Whisperer. Go check out his website. Take the CRM quiz if you have some technology needs, or just arrange a time to consult with him and figure out how he could be of help to you. Anything to do with sales and marketing and technology, that combination is what he does. So thanks, everybody, for joining us today. Tomorrow, I am going to be interviewing Yolande Brenner, the author of Holy Candy, Why I Joined a Cult and Married a Stranger. That's going to be a fun interview. She's many years past that experience, so we'll look in the rearview mirror and talk about that crazy time of her life. But I'm excited to welcome Yolande tomorrow here on the show. All righty, everybody, have a great rest of your day. I will see you all tomorrow.